Hi, this is your host Supin Bhartia and welcome to another episode of TFR Let's Talk. And today we have with us Sebastian Gerlinger, VP of Engineering at Storyblok. Sebastian, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. Hi.
Tell us a bit about Storyblok. Let's hear the story of Storyblok. What do you folks do?
So Storyblok is a headless CMS system. So it's right now very popular to decouple your web infrastructure. So you have a headless CMS system that can be used for different frontends. So we only provide the backend, store the content, optimize the delivery, and you can build your own frontend, be it a website, be it a mobile application. We even have apps that work on your smartwatch.
What value do headless CMSs bring to users? We have very well established other content management systems as well, which can be overwhelming and complicated when you look at Drupal and WordPress or whatever it is. So talk about the importance of headless CMS.
Yeah, I mean there are different advantages that you have with a headless system. So the first one is everything is decoupled and you can reuse your content in different frontends. We call that the omnichannel approach. The second thing that is really nice is we follow with that architecture more the microservice architecture. So you can have a best of breed approach when selecting your services. So you, for example, choose a hosted CMS solution, you choose a different e-commerce solution, then you choose a specific search solution, for example, put everything together in your front end, and you have the best services that you can have for each of these tasks. And ideally, all of these services are hosted and you don't need to deal with servers, with maintenance, with updates and security problems, for example.
Who would be ideal target audience for headless CMSs? Because in today's world, when it comes to website, it could be big companies and it could also be individuals all the way. There are people who are tech savvy. There are people who don't know anything about technology.
So Storyblok works for small websites as well, but I see the biggest benefit when you're using it in a bigger system. So for small websites, Storyblok, for example, offers a free community plan where you can build your own website. You add a front end with one of the popular frameworks like Next, and so on, and everything works out of the box. But in an ideal setup, you have multiple editors in the system. You have different development teams that are working with the APIs of the headless system, and that will integrate the content into different systems. And there, I think Storyblok or a headless system has a huge advantage over the monolithic setups that we were used to 10 years ago.
Can you also talk about when we talk about headless CMS, we always look at Jamstack. We actually cover Jamstack here regularly. So talk about the whole ecosystem that is there, frameworks around Jamstack, and how is Storyblok leveraging those technologies?
So Storyblok is, I would say, one of the main components that you can use in a Jamstack setup. So Jamstack stands for JavaScript, APIs, and markup, and you assemble all the important pieces on the front end. So if you have, for example, your website hosted on a service like Netlify or Vercel, then you can use the Jamstack approach to fetch additional content from Storyblok. And this additional content can, for example, be used to personalize your front end, to bring extra value to the customer that is right now visiting the website.
Can you also talk about, in today's world, companies, of course, it's even not a question that companies need to have online presence. Every company has a website and, content management, which just goes beyond interacting with their end customers. They do a lot of things internally as well. So talk about how is headless CMS or Storyblok helping companies, to have the online presence. And if you can also talk about what are the specific target markets or users or use cases that you are either interested in or they are the ones that you cater to?
So the first question was how we are helping enterprise or how we are helping the customers. And from my point of view, You can optimize your web presence new with new frameworks. For example, you can optimize for search engine optimization. You can increase the performance of your website by, for example, creating a statically generated site. That means that the web framework next that you are using will generate all the pages in advance, and then these pages are stored on a server, and you don't have to create every page again and again for every site request. They are already pre-generated, and the pre-generated pages, of course, load way faster than they would do when you have to create them over and over again. Another really nice feature of having a headless architecture is that you don't need to relaunch the whole website in one go. You can, for example, refresh certain parts of your website, add the content using the API to these new parts, and then don't have to do everything in one go, but refresh the website part after part. And our main target customer, I would say, are companies, enterprises that really have a marketing and a development team, because in that setup, you will leverage that developers can use the APIs and build on a new modern dev stack. And on the other hand, developers can use the visual editor of Storyblok to still have the visual capabilities of creating new content.
When we talk about CMSs or online presence, it's not a market that is served by one player. It's an ecosystem where a lot of players, a lot of partners, they kind of, complement each other. Of course, you folks compete also. But if you can talk about the importance of partners for Storyblok, and how do you engage with them so that you look at it as a whole booming ecosystem?
Yeah. So Storyblok, because you're mentioning partners, and Storyblok has two different kind of partners. So one part is agency partners who we refer our customers to actually implement the website, implement the mobile application, and so on. So these are the specialists who help you implement your new web asset. We have the partner program for that, and about 1,000 agencies that are part of this program. On the other hand, we also have the concept of tech partnerships, where we work together with other headless, API first, Mach Alliance companies, and we work together to build integrations so that the usage of different headless systems can work seamlessly together. So, for example, we are integrating with e-commerce tools like Shopify, commerce tools, BigCommerce, and we have plugins for these systems so that we can, for example, select single products from the e-commerce solution directly within Storyblok. And that's something that we are going to increase now, and where we will put more effort in so that we have more integrations with other systems, and the combination of two or more headless systems will become much easier.
I think it's a good idea to talk a bit about, I don't know if product is the right word or service is the right word, so that we can also understand what are the components that folks get from Storyblok and how it integrates with the rest of the ecosystem. That would be great to learn about.
So the services of Storyblok is the backend, the UI, where you put in your content, be it text, be it any digital data, be it video, PDFs or other assets. Then Storyblok will store all of these data in our database, and you have the APIs of Storyblok that you can use to fetch this data again from our service. In front of these APIs, we run a CDN that will optimize the delivery of the data, so it will be at a high speed. And we also offer an image service which allows you to, for example, resize and optimize images that are stored within Storyblok. That's great for performance and also great for search engine optimization, because Google will take into account how fast your page is loading. So this will optimize your responses.
Since you are the one who store data on your own infrastructure, in today's world, we also talk a lot about, depending on which industries some of the customers are, we data privacy compliance become issue. For example, in Europe, GDPR is there. Different countries are trying to, So how do you address that challenge?
So we are in the middle of Europe. So we are based in Europe, or our headquarters is based in Europe. So we are dealing since the beginning with GDPR, with all of the data protection and so on. And we are fully compliant with all the regulations that are there. Otherwise, it would be super expensive for us to not be compliant. The other thing that we started last year is Storyblok is ISO 27001 certified, which means we comply to the ISO 27001 standards for information security. So we went through the whole company, set up policies, how different things have to be handled and so on. And afterwards, all of that has been audited by TÜV Rheinland, and we received our certificate that we are compliant with all the ISO requirements this year in March. And this is now an ongoing process, as we are used to from the ISO processes. So we need to keep the standards as we initialize them. Plus, we should set up processes to improve our security every year, and we will be audited every year to make sure that we keep the standards high. So this is something we have started this year, and we are really proud that we passed on the first attempt. And that's really nice for the whole company and also for all customers, because you can now be sure that we are not doing any weird stuff, and that all the basic security measures are in place, and that we are working in a proper way.
Let's look at some of the backend components of your services. Talk about the tech components of Storyblok and some features, functionalities, if there was any latest release.
We have released V2 of Storyblok just beginning of August, and the update for V2 was around the UI. So we did a major update of all the UI components to refresh the look and feel. We have rebuilt a lot of the existing functionality of the UI for the V2 again, and we have also added some new features. So one of the new features, for example, is you have now the possibility to do discussions within your content. So you don't need to go to Slack or to some other chat tool to inform your colleagues that something is not working as expected, that something should be changed. You can do that directly within your content and tag your colleagues on the appropriate parts and start the communication there. Another really nice feature that we launched with the V2 is an image editor. So I already mentioned the image service, which allows you to resize images, to crop images, and so on. And this functionality is now also in the UI. So you have a small editor that allows you to resize the image, to optimize the image, and so on.
But more thing is that you folks, as I'm aware, also do a lot of open source. So talk about because when we look at open source, there is always a project and then there's a product, and it could be a symbiosis where the project is feeding the product and product is sponsoring the project. So it's a very nice, where also the beauty of open source is that open source can solve day one problem. Users can download it, install it, get it started. But day two is a big challenger, new functionality, features, support, security. So talk about the open source story of Storyblok.
Storyblok itself is not an open source project. Storyblok itself is a hosted SaaS solution where we don't give out the source code. but we do a lot of engagement in the open source community. So, for example, we provide more than 100 open source repositories on GitHub, where we provide examples how to implement our APIs, where we provide SDKs that are very helpful to make handling of, to connect to our APIs and make handling of the responses a lot easier. We also have some tools there, like the Storyblok CLI that we released as open source, and the Storyblok CLI allows you from the terminal to access all the functionality of Storyblok. Second big part of our open source activity is that we have now open sourced our design system, for example, and Storyblok can be extended using apps and tools. And to make these apps and tools look have the same look and feel as our normal UI, we now open sourced the design system to give everyone the opportunity to make it as similar to our normal UI as possible. And the third part, where we are doing a lot of open source support, is by just sponsoring projects. So the projects that we are using within Storyblok are the underpinning of everything we are building. And so we like to give back to the community. And through that channel, we have now donated close to $1 million to the open source community, to big projects like Vue.js or Nuxt, and also to smaller projects where we, for example, use the TipTap editor in our product, and this one is also getting financial support from our end.
Sebastian, thank you so much for taking time out today and talk about Storyblok, talk about the whole Jamstack ecosystem, what role you are playing there in that stack, and also sharing the open source story of the company. Thanks for all those insights, and I would love to have you back on the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invite, and thank you.